Have you ever woke up and you started your day and there was just something unexpected that happened like right away? You ever had that happen? Well, one day at the very first house that we had ever purchased, and this backyard did not exist. There was not a backyard when we got there, and so we had landscaped it. We had put in trees and shrubs and, all of that. We'd put in sod and sprinkler system and all that. Well, one day I go out to the backyard and I see that on one particular side of my lawn, it's about 12 inches higher than it should be. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, the grass did not grow an extra 12 inches. There is a literal mountain happening in my yard. And so I kind of go do some exploration and I kind of go touch it with my foot and it's squishy. And I'm like, uh-oh. Kind of do some more, touch it, kind of walking through it a little bit, and it is squishy as all get out. The best way I can describe this, and I'm sorry, it's a little bit gross, it's like a pimple ready to pop, all right? And so what I did with this unexpected situation is I went and got a shovel and I popped it. Here's what happened. When we had laid sod, one of the pipes underneath had broken, but the sod had grown together, but not had yet established its roots deep into the soil yet. So when the water was leaking, it kind of raised this up off of the ground. Sometimes in life, we have some unexpected situations, and you may not always know what to do. That situation could involve some sort of a health crisis. Maybe you have a child that was diagnosed with diabetes. Or maybe you just recently went to the doctor and the doctor said, you have cancer. Maybe you woke up one morning and your life got turned into chaos. And the person that you've spent your life with has betrayed your trust in the worst way. Maybe one day the person that you loved seems like they're a completely different person and you're not sure what's going on and they're battling a mental health issue. Maybe an unexpected situation is all of a sudden you have a financial issue that you just were not prepared for. Your car just breaks down. They say you're going to need a new engine and you were not prepared for that. Or your job, the hours that you're working, they're having to make cuts, and so they cut back on your hours just at the same time that your rent got raised. Sometimes there are unexpected situations that we face, but what do we do in those moments? We've been in a series for a while now called 3 Words. 3 words. 3 words that if we will wrestle with, 3 words that if we will apply to our life, that it could bring about transformation. And here are our 3 words today. Stand, believe, and praise. Stand, believe, and praise. We're going to spend our time together in 2 Chronicles chapter 20. And I want to set this story up for you. There's a king by the name of Jehoshaphat. And here's what you need to know about him. He was a good king. And you read in the Old Testament, there was a lot of bad kings, did a lot of terrible things, and there was a few good kings. He was one of the few good kings who honored the Lord, who worshiped the Lord, who tore down the fake shrines and different things and tore down those altars and all of that, and he began to worship the Lord, helped to turn and steer his people back to the Lord. Well, here's what happened. Several of his enemies, surrounding nations, conspired together. They created an alliance that they were going to come together and attack Judah, and they were going to destroy Judah. So then they could expand their territory. Then they could go beyond Judah into other areas, but Judah was in the way. One of the things that kind of is a myth in Christianity is that bad things don't happen to good people. You ever heard that before? Well, no, bad things don't happen to good people. Well, what about bad things happening to godly people? Yeah, that happens. How many of you ever had that happen before? You had something bad happen, and you would be considered a godly person. So King Jehoshaphat, something bad happens. We're in 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 1. After this, the armies of the Moabites, Ammonites, and some of the Munites declared war on Jehoshaphat. Messengers came and told Jehoshaphat, "A vast army from Edom is marching against you from beyond the Dead Sea. They are already at Hazazon Tamar." So here's what happens. Jehoshaphat, some messengers come his way. Thank you, I needed that. Messengers come and there's bad news. You ever been given bad news by somebody? Like you just weren't prepared for the kind of bad news. Like you just had something happen and they just like dropped a bomb on your day. Like, what? Jehoshaphat is told, your enemies are coming to attack you. In these types of moments, when the unexpected happens, our first reaction should be to seek the Lord. Our first reaction should be to seek the Lord. What does he want to do? Verse 3. Jehoshaphat was terrified by this news and begged the Lord for guidance. He also ordered everyone in Judah to begin fasting. So people from all the towns of Judah came to Jerusalem to seek the Lord's help. He was terrified. Any of you ever been scared before? Here's what that word terrified in Hebrew means. It means yareh, to be afraid. He was afraid. Anybody ever given you bad news? A doctor gave you bad news and now you are just afraid? He was afraid. When you're terrified in life, when you're afraid in life, that fear can either paralyze you or that fear can push you towards the Lord. But you have to make a choice. How are you going to allow that fear to impact you? Is it going to push you towards the Lord or paralyze you? What's so interesting is that Jehoshaphat, instead of just panicking, he seeks the Lord's for guidance. Here's what we do when we go across something hard and a difficulty in our life. Oh no, what am I going to do? How are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to fix the car? What are we going to? And we just go into a panic. Let's be honest. How many of you are panickers in the room? If you're sitting next to a panicker, give them a little elbow. So here's what Jehoshaphat does. He calls the people to pray and to fast. He calls the people around him to pray and to fast. One of the things that I think in Christianity that we do very poorly is invite other people to come pray. What do I mean by that? You're going through a hard situation in your life and nobody knows. Nobody knows. Your marriage is falling apart. Your kid's life is in turmoil. Your health is in shambles. All of these things, but nobody knows because you haven't invited anybody in to pray for you, to pray with you, to believe with you. Can we do that? Can we do that as a better thing, as a community where we come together and we stand together and let people know they're not alone and that we are believing for God's best in that situation? So Jehoshaphat leads his nation in prayer. We're jumping down to verse 5 here. Jehoshaphat stood before the community of Judah and Jerusalem in front of the new courtyard at the temple of the Lord. Verse 8. Your people settled here and built this temple to honor your name. They said, whenever we are faced with calamity such as war, plague, or famine, we can come to stand in your presence before the temple where your name is honored. We can cry out to you to save us, and you will hear us and rescue us. When we're facing unexpected situations, we need to stand and pray. To stand and pray. Verse 12. Oh, our God, won't you stop them? We are powerless against this mighty army that is about to attack us. We don't know what to do, but we are looking to you for help. So Jehoshaphat, he's the leader of this people. He is standing before them. All the people are collected together, and he is standing there, and I'm sure they are ready for this rallying speech, and they are ready to be inspired, and this is the plan. This is what we're going to do. And he begins to pray, and then he begins to say, I don't know what we're going to do. but we're looking to God for help. Can I just tell you, there's some people in the room that you need to admit when you don't know what to do. Maybe in your marriage, maybe with your child. God, I don't know what to do, but I'm looking to you for help. What does it mean to stand? You see, standing is not a passive thing. When you stand, it's actually an act of faith. It means that you're trusting God and refusing to let fear or panic control you. You see, Jehoshaphat, he's again in front of his people. He doesn't know the answer, but he knows the one who has the answers. There's not all the situations in your life that you're going to be like, oh, well, this is what you should do in this circumstance. This is what you should do. There are things you are going to face that you have no idea what to do. But you know the one who does. So will you seek the Lord? Will you stand with him? Will you believe? Jehoshaphat, again, in front of the community that he is leading, he stands. He doesn't know how it's going to happen, but he looks to the Lord. He doesn't know when it's going to happen, but he's looking to the Lord. He doesn't know what to do, but he's looking to the Lord. In his prayer in front of the people, he acknowledges how the Lord has taken care of them. He acknowledges the past faithfulness of the Lord. And he admits his own helplessness in this circumstance. Can I just tell you, one of the most underutilized things in our Christian faith is prayer. Prayer is not a last resort, it's the first one. For some of you in this room today, when you're like, I don't know what to do about my teenager. I don't know what to do about my bills. Can you pray? I don't know what to do about my marriage. I don't know what to do about, can you pray? Can you seek the one who has the answers? And here's what happens as this nation comes together. They've already been fasting, and now they're praying. And a man comes and stands in front of them, and he gives a prophetic word. We're going to jump down to verse 15. He said, listen, all you people of Judah and Jerusalem. Listen, King Jehoshaphat, this is what the Lord says. Do not be afraid. Don't be discouraged by this mighty army, for the battle is not yours, but God's. After we stand and when we stand, we need to believe. So what does it mean to believe? It means to trust the Lord even when you can't see the outcome yet. Even when you don't know what the outcome is going to be. You see, as we believe, it activates our faith and allows us to experience God's peace, even in the midst of chaos. You ever known somebody like the world is falling apart and somehow they have this incredible peace? And the people around them are panicking and that's the Lord. That's because they're not looking at themselves. They're not trying to figure it out themselves. They're standing and they're believing in the Lord. Verse 17. But you will not even need to fight. Take your positions. Then stand still and watch the Lord's victory. He is with you. O people of Judah and Jerusalem, do not be afraid or discouraged. Go out against them tomorrow, for the Lord is with you. Verse 20. Early the next morning, the army of Judah went out into the wilderness of Tekoa, and on the way, Jehoshaphat stopped and said, listen to me, all you people of Judah and Jerusalem. Believe in the Lord your God, and you will be able to stand firm. Believe in his prophets, and you will succeed. So Judah is told that they will not fight this battle physically, that they will not have to enter into war in combat. But what are they told to do? They are told to stand and believe. To stand and believe, that means to position yourself, to believe that the salvation of the Lord, that the victory of the Lord is coming in your circumstance, even in the midst of a big army coming your way. For some of you, the situation, the season that you're in right now, you need to stand and you need to believe that God is coming. And I get it, that army can look scary. When you see the size of the army, don't forget the size of your God. Will you stand and believe? Will you trust God with your finances? Even when things have gotten tight? Will you trust God with your family? Even when some relationships are broken. You see, when we stand and believe, this is a faith partnership with God. We need to know that God is fighting on our behalf, and our job isn't just to try to fix it. Listen, how many of you are fixers in here? Right? You try to fix everything in life, and sometimes you just got to let God fix it. And you stand and believe. The third part is we need to praise. Verse 21, after consulting the people, the king appointed singers to walk ahead of the army, singing to the Lord and praising him for his holy splendor. And this is what they sang. Give thanks to the Lord, his faithful love endures forever. All right, we got to talk about this for a moment. There are three nations that have come together. They have combined their armies, and they are coming towards the people of Judah. Jehoshaphat rallies the people. They have had this prophetic word that the Lord is going to fight this battle, and they come together, and Jehoshaphat is encouraging them. And this is one of those moments like in the movie where the leader gets in front of them and inspires them and says something like, what we do today will echo in eternity. Or they say things like this to kind of rally the troops and get them ready to fight and go into battle. And you know what Jehoshaphat does? He's like, where are the singers at? Let's put the singers in the front. Let's get the choir out there. Let's get the worshipers in front. Now, I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm like, where are the Army Rangers at? Where's Delta Force? Navy SEALs, come on, let's get the specialists in here. Jehoshaphat says, no, put the worshipers first. And they say, give thanks to the Lord. His faithful love endures forever. You see, because Jehoshaphat knew this was going to be a supernatural battle that was fought, not a physical battle. Verse 22. At the very moment they began to sing and give praise, the Lord caused the armies of Ammon, Moab, and Mount Seir to start fighting among themselves. Did you see that? That right as they began to praise, something shifted. Something changed. These enemy nations started fighting amongst themselves. We don't know exactly what happened because it doesn't say. This is not in the Bible. This is just me talking. Here's what I think. They're probably, standing in line somewhere. They're sitting around the fire. They got all these different, tribes and clans together. And somebody's like talking to his buddy over here. And he's like, dude, that guy's ugly. And that guy hears him and he stands up and he's like, what did you say? He said, I'm ugly. And he said, what? He said, man, if you're that ugly, man, I wouldn't want to see your mama. So these guys get in each other's face. They start pushing and shoving. One of them pulls out the sword. They start swinging. Now the other buddies get up and they start swinging swords, going back and forth at each other. And before you know it, everybody else is involved in this. Nobody even knows what's going on. But they see people swinging and fighting. And before we know it, all the people are dead. When we believe the words and promises of God, there's something inside of us that just needs to praise, that just needs to worship. You see, when we believe and we praise, it is a declaration of faith that God is already at work even before you see the outcome. Praise is a weapon. When you worship in your struggles, you are declaring your trust in the Lord. Praise shifts your focus from the problem to the problem solver. That's why it's so important that we praise. That's why when we come together as a community, we spend time worshiping the Lord and we praise, because there are so many stories, so many struggles, so many situations that are represented in this place. And we are declaring, Lord, that we love you, we trust you, we thank you, we celebrate what you've already done. And God, we're believing for what you're gonna do. That's why we spend so much time in worship. We need to make praise part of our response to the Lord. When we're faced with a battle, we need to worship instead of worry. When worry is taking over your life, can I just encourage you? Start worshiping. Start worshiping. And I know that's a hard thing to do, and you're like, well, I've got this happening, I've got that. Just start worshiping. For some of you, you may need to do this. You may need to get a battle praise playlist together. When you're driving to work, you're on your commute, you turn that on, and it's just songs of victory, songs of triumph, songs of celebration, songs about trust, songs about faithfulness. When you're in the shower, you turn that on in the bathroom. When whatever you're doing, just songs to remind you of who God is and the things that he does. Because listen, we can all get caught up in worry. But we need to worship. Worship through it. Worship through it. Trust God through it. About 5 years ago, my wife Jessica, she was pregnant with our third child. And we were told that this is going to be a high-risk pregnancy. With our second child, Jessica almost died in delivery. So we waited. That's why you might see that there's a big age gap between our second and third child. And we knew this was going to be a high-risk pregnancy, and they had us go see some specialists and different things. And I remember one of the meetings that we go to, and they said, well, given your age, given, the past situations that you've gone through, there's some concerns here. Your child could potentially be disabled. And they go through the list of different things that it could be. And then they ask us, is termination an option for you? Now, they didn't know who I was or who we were or our story or what, No, it's not. Are you fully aware that your child could have this, and this? Yes, we are. And we will trust God through it. Whatever God says that we can handle, that's what we will handle, no matter the situation. Fast forward the story a little bit. We go to another specialist and some scans have been done. And this specialist says, hey, I'm seeing something here. And based off what I'm seeing, this could be catastrophic. And that was the word that he used, catastrophic, for the baby and for the mama. So now fear has crept in. We're worrying. God, what are we supposed to do? God, this isn't what we wanted to have happen. This guy's saying catastrophic. God, I don't want to lose my wife in this. What are we supposed to do? It's like somebody punched us in the gut, knocked all the wind out of us. Maybe you have felt that before in life. We didn't have the answers. It was out of our control. But here's what we did. We decided that we were going to praise and worship through it. We began to reach out to those closest to us, our friends, our family, the church we were a part of, and we began to ask them all that they would pray with us, that they would believe with us. That song, Waymaker, that we sang earlier. My wife would be on stage leading that song in front of hundreds and hundreds of people. When it was exactly what we needed to happen, that he would be a waymaker. And the things that were going on inside of her, we couldn't see it. There was nothing we could do. There was nothing that we could change the situation. But to see her stand in faith and lead others, saying, even when I can't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you are working. We fast forward the story. We go to a different specialist. This specialist looks at the scans, the new scans, and his words are, I don't see anything to be concerned about. And now I'm a realist, I'm a skeptic. I'm like, wait a second. What about the other scans? What about what the other person saw? And they basically said, well, I can't speak for them. I can only tell you what I'm seeing right here, right now. And what I'm seeing right here and right now is that something shifted and changed inside of her. Fast forward the story. And in the midst of COVID, she gave birth to Lincoln Marcelino Smith, a healthy baby boy. And we give all the glory to God for him. There are some of you in this place today that you need to stand, that you need to believe, and that you need to praise the Lord. I can't promise you the outcome, but I can point you to the one that has answers.